Hello and welcome to Health and Wellness, your guide to the integrated personal and financial retirement journey for physicians. I'm your host, Michael Swartz, Certified Financial Planner and Master Certified Physician Development Coach. Welcome back to the Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm Michael Swartz, and with me today is Dr. Scott Abramson, a retired neurologist from Kaiser Permanente in Northern California, who began his career in 1979 and retired in January of 2020. During his professional career, Dr. Abramson developed programs for physician communication and physician burnout, and is a very good friend of one of our recent podcast guests, Dr. Michelle Knox. So with that, Dr. Abramson, welcome to the Health and Wellness Podcast.
Thanks so much, Michael. And just one more footnote. As I said, I started in 1979, retired in 2020, and that's over 40 years, which is pretty good. But a lot of doctors work for 40 years or more. But if you look at the dates, 1979 to 2020, actually, I worked over 6 decades. So parts of 6 decades. So I thought that was pretty neat. It's kind of like Ted Williams. You know, he played in that from 1939 to 1960. So he played in parts of 4 decades. So I can't bat like Ted Williams, but he can't swing a reflex hammer like me either. So there you go.
That's an awesome piece of information. It's really amazing to think about. Yeah, your career spans, portions of up to 6 decades. That's a tenured career if there is one.
Yeah.
Well, as we start these conversations, if you could just share a little bit about your career, what drew you into medicine, what you enjoyed about it, and just kind of that life cycle that you experienced professionally.
Yeah. Well, I was, as I said, I was a neurologist at Kaiser Permanente. And the real sort of epiphany of my time at Kaiser was when Kaiser brought this physician communication endeavor to bring to our physicians. And this was like over 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. I think we were way ahead of the curve. And I became very, very focused on that part. And it really became a passion with me. And it really changed my career at Kaiser, because for the first 20 years I was there, I was like any other doc. I was like, got to find it, got to fix it, got to explain it. And that was it. And I was competent at it, and I was pretty good, and it was a good profession, but that's what it was. It was a career. Then when I started taking these courses and developing these courses and learning more about physician communication, that really became my passion at Kaiser. And for the last 20 years, I can tell you, learning those skills of doctor-patient communication it changed my career from a career to a calling. And I can tell you, it was so much more rewarding and so much more satisfying in those last 20 years.
Well, that's so insightful, because I think nowadays, there's so much talk about burnout, so much talk about physician well-being. And here you are 20 years ago, maybe on the forefront of developing some of these solutions, and the monumental shift that had on your relationships, maybe with peers and with patients.
Absolutely.
What did you learn? You said it became a passion. What did you learn, and how did that enhance your career once you started incorporating some of these communication pieces into it?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me try to put this as succinctly as I can. And it really boils down to just one word. One word made a difference in my whole perspective on how I practice. Now, you'll never guess the word, because it's a very common word, and it's only 3 letters. And the word is the, THE. The word the changed my career. And here's what I mean by that. So I told you that my focus, like a lot of doctors, when I first 20 years, was find it, fix it. It's about what's the matter. What's the matter? So someone comes into me, they've got headaches, and I'm going to examine them, and I'm going to test them, and I'm going to say, well, your What's the matter? Your headaches are due to allergies. Your headaches are due to migraine. And good, here's some migraine treatment. Goodbye. Have a good life. And that was my approach. But if I got rid of the word the, and it became not what's the matter, but what matters. So that particular patient that came in with the headache is, okay, it looks like the allergy to me, but let me ask you something. Sir, madam, what is your biggest fear about these headaches? Well, doc, gosh, I didn't even want to mention this, but my uncle had a brain tumor, or my aunt died of an aneurysm, and I just want to be. And then when you focused it to what matters, that's what really mattered to that patient is knowing that they don't have an aneurysm or a brain tumor. And if you can do and if you just keep doing what's the matter, another tension headache, another migraine, another allergy headache, okay, your life was going to be pretty good. It's going to be satisfying. But if you can really give someone the reassurance, if you can give them their life back, you don't have an aneurysm, you don't have a tumor, that's a blessing for the patient. And it's such a blessing for the clinician, for the doctor to be able to give that reassurance of healing.
Well, it sounds like you were able to take, a transactional model and develop a relational model alongside of it to say, not only can I solve the issue, right? That was consistent throughout, but I
Yeah,
can help enhance your life with a better understanding of why this matters to you. So what matters rather than what's the matter.
yeah. Or better to maybe to say, it's important to know what's the matter, but it's just as important to know what matters. Just getting,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So then it seems like with your work in physician well-being and addressing physician burnout, not only did you enhance relationships with the patients, but it sounds like you might have been able to do some help with the corpus of healthcare as well. How did some of this communication lead to addressing physician burnout?
And if you just take that one concept, that in itself, I believe can be sort of an anecdote to physician burnout. Because if I'm going out of that room and I say, okay, well, I just saw an allergy patient that had headaches. Now I saw a tension headache. Now I saw a migraine. Okay. And you're just going down the list and it's, find it, fix it, explain it. And you feel good. You've done your job. It's a career. But if you can leave that room and say, wow, not only did I give that person some medicine for the migraine, but man, my patient left that room with a sense of relief. I don't have the burden. I'm not waking up at 2 a.m. Now, and if you can give that to the patient, that calming those fears, that sense of healing, that deeper than just the medicine that would do, you go out of that room and you say, wow, man, I did something really good today. I'm really proud of myself. I feel so good about that. And if you can, and so many doctors, it's just to find it, fix it, what's the matter. But if we can go deeper, that can bring joy and satisfaction to our own professional lives if we have that attitude.
Well, if you had some advice around that for some younger physicians, what would that look like?
That's one of the things that I would say is go deeper, go deeper, and ask those questions. What are you most afraid of? How is this affecting your life? How's this affecting your life? What do you, and asking things like, what do you think the problem is? Those are things that bring the patient closer to you and you closer to the patient. You develop that relationship and that rapport. Let me say this another way. So and this was an epiphany that I had with a patient. Patient came in to me. Name was Joanne, 38 years old. She had two twin girls, about 13. Now, Joanne, when she was about 13 years old, her mother died of an aneurysm. So she went to the doctor. She got an MRI, and the MRI didn't show an aneurysm, but it showed some funny little stuff that was of no consequence, an incidental, we call it. So she comes in to see me, and I explain what this is. It's nothing. You don't have an aneurysm. It's nothing to worry about. No problem. Um, and I'm just ready to leave the room, and she wouldn't let me leave. She grabbed my hand. Joanne grabbed my hand. She says, Doctor, I am so grateful to you. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. I'm so grateful. And I said, Joanne, look, it was nothing. It just, I was embarrassed. It was just embarrassing. But then I thought about this later on, and I had this epiphany because to Joanne, this was not nothing. This was something. This was a big something. And it should have been just as big as something to me, not just a nothing. And I saw a license plate once, and it said, it's amazing the impact you can have on someone's life and never even realize it. It's amazing the impact you can have on someone's life and never even realize it. And that was me. That was me for the first 20 years. And I saw that, and that was where I was in the first 20 years of my career. But if we as physicians can realize the impact we can have on someone's life just by treating what we call a nothingoma, an incidental homa. If we can accept ourselves for what we can do, it can bring so much joy and satisfaction and meaning into our professional lives.
Well, that's that invitation to go deeper, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so rewarding. That and I'm not talking about, people talk, oh, you've got to change the EMR, you got to change administration, you got to, change your schedule, all that. Okay, all that may be great, but there's some things that we can do internally in how we see and approach every patient. And that's one of them. If we realize that we have, if we're in the never realize the impact we have category, then it's not going to be that satisfying. But there's so many things we can do, little things, big things that don't involve, something from a medical textbook or medical journal.
Well, that's kind of that art in medicine. I think even in the Hippocratic Oath, there's reference to that, right? That it's not just the what's the matters. It's not just the logic, the diagnoses and prescriptions and care plan. It's so much
Yeah.
more that you're dealing with another human being. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like what you're really talking about is just relating.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Relating and at that deeper level that we can do that. And we have a choice. We have a choice. We can, muddle through the day and write our prescriptions, or we can go deeper and have a deeper relationship with patients that can bring so much satisfaction to us.
Well, one thing that I just want to point out here too is I can hear the rebuttal is I don't have time for that. I have triple book patients, quadruple book patients, double book patients, and notes to write, like you mentioned the EMR. But you really I want to highlight a small point that you made, Scott, is you said, but it doesn't have to take that much time.
Yeah, yeah,
It's more of an awareness than it is a time commitment. Is
yeah.
that fair?
Exactly, exactly. And actually this acts when you do these, we have a whole system at Kaiser that we teach this, so principles of communication. And when you do this, I can tell you it saves you time. Because just imagine, okay, so that person comes in, they've got an allergy headache, and you go through the motion, you give them the medicines, but they go home and they're still thinking, waking up at 2 in the morning, my gosh, I mean, do I have an aneurysm? The doctor. And so then you get maybe they make another appointment. Then they're going to call you and say, gee, are you sure you ruled out an aneurysm? You do this. And they're still going to not be comfortable. But if you can do that right at the onset, say, what are you most worried about? Oh, it's an aneurysm. Okay, great. You don't have an aneurysm. Isn't that great? I'm so glad to give you that news. I, it gives me great pleasure to reassure you. Okay, so how about what do you think about taking this medicine? And maybe even they say, no, you know what? I don't even need the medicine. I don't even need the medicine. I just want to be reassured. And then you saved yourself writing a prescription. You saved yourself time. Maybe the prescription doesn't work. Maybe they have a bad side effect. It's honestly, it saves time.
Awesome. I think that's the message to be received here. I heard a similar story that I've shared on the podcast before, but emergency room physician comes in, there's a blockage in the airway. the blockage gets removed. It's a teenager, I think it's 14-year-old, and immediately once he's stabilized, the physician goes to leave the emergency room, and a nurse, an NP who was also a physician development coach, said, you know, can you take before you leave the room, even just 5 to 15 seconds to remember that this son now has a new lease on life, that his mother won't be mourning the loss of a child. And it was just a pause to your point, allow the impact of patient care to carry its full weight. And I'm
Yes.
sure,
Yeah.
so many physicians have a similar story in their life that they may have
Yeah.
left the room or in your case, minimized because that's a way to handle it.
Yeah.
And I think what you're sharing here is the beauty. The beauty of the career is really just in that pause and that
Exactly.
awareness.
Exactly. And imagine, so that doctor in the emergency room, he cleared out the blockage, he leaves the room, and he's feeling good. Okay, I removed the blockage. That feels great. But what if he stayed in that room for 30 seconds and saw a grateful mom give him a hug? I mean, and the family members to see the relief on their faces. Wouldn't he go out of that room not just, well, I got another blockage out, but wow, this is why I went into this field to see those to to see, you know, the results of what I can do.
And to think, the positive energy, we talk about you can't pour out of an empty cup, the contributions, the filling of the cup that provides. When physicians are struggling with burnout nationwide, that
Yeah,
some of these invitations for the 5 second pause, the 15-second pause, just the moments of awareness and how
yeah,
it starts to really reform and reshape from you mentioned a career that's really transactional in nature to a passion, to a vocation, to this
to a
fulfillment.
calling. Yeah, to a calling,
Yeah.
really. Yeah. Yeah, Michael, yeah, that's such a um demonstrative story. How that just imagine how that physician's cup could have been filled. He's got a busy day, he's running from room to room, but man, you have that, your cup is filled. You see the mom gives you a hug, grandma gives you a hug. Man, what what more do you want out of life, you know?
Well, and really, one of the questions I often lead with is what got you into medicine? And it seems to be that anticipation of moments such as those. It's really relating to patients to provide health care, not just health services. And that just gets lost along the way. It can fall by the wayside when the drumbeats of administration and shorter patient care windows and higher volume, it tends to just be the first thing that we let go.
Yeah. Well, as far as, the question of why I got into medicine, I mean, I will talk to you from a personal point of view.
Sure.
I don't know if this applies to other doctors or not, but of course, that idea of bringing healing to people and so forth. But I think a lot of doctors, I think, are on kind of the introverted spectrum or the kind of the nerd spectrum. And I remember, and a lot of us were, we long for the status or the prestige of being a doctor. I think that's part of it. I was at a workshop once and they asked us to draw a picture of why we went into medicine. So the picture that I drew, and I remember this very distinctly, the picture that I drew a picture of this big football guy, and his name was Biff. And then there was a picture of me, kind of a stringly kind of guy, spaghetti arms, little nerdy guy. And then in between them was this, beautiful young cheerleader type. And there's a bubble from the cheerleader type's, thing from her mouth. And what she's saying is, yes, Biff, you are very handsome and strong, but I think I'm going to have my boyfriend as Scott because he's going to be a doctor. So I mean, I think part of why a lot of us go into medicine is kind of that, to make up for all those times we couldn't get a date in high school. I don't know.
And you saw that come full circle. I mean, it went from a motivation for yourself to becoming for others. And so I think that's really the magic of the career is it does come with this prestige and that identity that we'll certainly talk about, losing or leaving behind as you transition into retirement. But yeah, the magnitude and the measure of impact that you can have is kind of that next evolution of the career. It reminds me of the book The Second Mountain, where once you've accomplished those things for yourself, right, you've got the prestige, the income, the title, status,
Yeah,
then you can kind of go through this next evolution of self-actualization and then a repurposing and a recontributing to the greater good.
yeah.
And that's where, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that would be a great transition, but I think a lot of doctors don't make that transmission. That they just stay in that one phase of I'm making good money, I'm respected, I got a career, I'm finding it and fixing it, and and that's it. And then once they retire, there's that's all they have, the memories of those things.
Yeah. And that can lead to kind of this retirement cliff that we talk about in the book, where it's career, 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 kind of
Yeah,
this terminal point of retirement, the day you retire, and then this kind of unknown of retirement. And
yeah,
if that's the stage you're at and that's the relationship you have with your career, um, kind of not getting beyond yourself, it creates a pretty traumatic terminal retirement. And so,
yeah,
what can we do in the meantime to say, hey, I've got these skills, I've got these roles, and I can repurpose them or maybe develop them, redeploy them, and kind of turn this into a transition and a bit more of a rebuild rather than an overnight 180-degree flip and having your whole world flipped upside down in a retirement transition.
yeah,
Um, so I'd invite you here to say this is probably the closing of, one of two parts of the podcast. And so for part one, Scott, anything else that you'd like to add just about your career, this beautiful reframe of enjoying and having reverence for the work that you're doing? Anything else here as we close out kind of the first part here on your career before we step into a conversation about retirement?
yeah. Well, just to continue the thread of what we talked about, there's an old saying. It says, "A doctor is ready to retire when he no longer needs to be called doctor."
Mm.
And I think that a lot of doctors do retire, and they've fallen into that trap, and they don't have this. That so much of their life relied on their status of being a doctor and the prestige it is, that now that they don't have it, it's it's not the same. I talked to one of my retired colleagues. And he said, what I miss about being a doctor is, like, I could go into a patient's room and I could tell a joke, and it would be a stupid joke, but they'd laugh. I could make a political statement about something. How it doesn't matter how absurd it was, but they would think it was great wisdom. He says, now, I'm just one of these guys hanging out at a coffee shop. Nobody cares about my jokes. Nobody cares about my political opinions.
Well, I think that's great foreshadowing for the second half of our conversation. So, the second part will air in two separate weeks, and so this being the close of week one, this wisdom, this change really that happens at the end of career. We'll get into that in much greater detail here, both from your perspective and some of the stories that you have to share.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott, so much. It sounds like, a wonderful career that had this really transformative piece, right around the time you focused in on that communication, kind of what's beyond just the what's the matter and really dialing into what matters. So a very powerful message. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Health and Wellness Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Michael Schwartz, Certified Financial Planner and Master Certified Physician Development Coach. If you're looking for additional resources for integrated physician retirement planning, please visit healthandwellness.com. We'll see you in the next episode.